Today we will travel with you to Noosa, Australia. Sian Kingi was excited about attending a school friend's upcoming birthday party. Sian's mum, Linda, agreed to meet Sian after school so that they could shop for fabric for a new dress. Linda and Sian picked out some fabric and finished their shopping at Noosa Fair Shopping Centre at about 4:30 p.m. before heading home. Linda took her car, and Sian cycled on her beloved yellow bike. Their home was only 1 kilometer away. "See you at home, Mum?" Even though the two took different routes home, they were expected to arrive within minutes of each other. Sian's route took her through a local Noosa park called Pinaroo Park. But when Sian didn't arrive home shortly after Linda presumed she had met with friends and was chatting and was just delayed. But as the day went on and there were no signs of Sian arriving home, Linda started to worry. Linda started calling Sian's friends without success. Sian's father, Barrie Kingi, arrived home from work just after 8 p.m. and started the search for his daughter. The couple decided to retrace the steps of their daughter's return trip home from the shopping center. They shone the headlight of their car into Pinaroo Park and found Sian's yellow bicycle lying in the grass. Detective Sergeant Bob Atkinson knew Sian Kingi by sight. Sian played in the same netball league as his own daughter. So when Sian's parents came into the Noosa police station to report her missing, he didn't muck around. Atkinson went with Sian's parents to Pinaroo Park, where the bike was located, to search for clues, but nothing else was found at the scene. After inquiring as to whether Sian would run away, the Kingis told Atkinson their daughter would never do such a thing. She just wasn't that sort of kid. Noosa police acted immediately. They called the night desk of the local newspaper, the Sunshine Coast Daily, to print a notice about Sian's disappearance in the following day's issue. Sian Kingi was officially declared a missing person by the morning of the 28th of November. Every available police officer on the Sunshine Coast was on the lookout for Sian. Despite widespread reporting of Sian's disappearance, the police had little to go on. There was a sighting of a dust-covered white Holden station wagon, but without any registration details, and over 10,000 white station wagons registered on the Sunshine Coast, it was almost impossible to find a suspect. That evening, Sian's disappearance was on all the television news channels. 3 days after Sian's disappearance, and with no solid leads, Noosa police called on the homicide squad from Brisbane to assist. A command center was set up in Noosa and manned around the clock. Over 700 leads came in regarding Sian's disappearance, but the only consistent lead was the sighting of the dusty white Holden station wagon with a scruffy-looking man and a heavy-set woman. 5 days after Sian's disappearance, 18-year-old fruit picker Neil Clark was walking home from his work near Castaways Creek in the Tinbeerway Mountain State Forest when he noticed a foul odor. He took note of the smell and decided if it was lingering the next morning, he would check it out. The smell was still strong the next day, so Neil followed the source of the stench. There he found the body of a young girl in a blue and white striped dress. He called Noosa police right away. Detective Sergeant Bob Atkinson took the call at the Noosa Command Center, and together with Senior Sergeant Bob Dallow from the Brisbane Homicide Unit, they investigated Neil Clark's discovery. Sian was found still dressed in her Sunshine Beach school uniform. Her underwear had been cut off and was located nearby, as was her green school backpack. Sian had been stabbed 12 times, including 2 deep wounds to her neck. She had been sexually assaulted and strangled. 5 days after Sian was found, a private service was held on her family's Sunshine Coast property. She was sent off with a traditional Maori farewell. Detective Sergeant Bob Atkinson and members of the Brisbane Homicide Squad took time out of the murder investigation to attend Sian's farewell and pay their respects. Shocked residents of Noosa raised over $10,000 for a reward to find Sian's killers, and police launched a nationwide manhunt. The only concrete lead police had was the sighting of a dusty white Holden Kingswood station wagon. Police made a statement to the media for any person who saw this vehicle in the vicinity of Pinaroo Park, Noosa, on the 27th of November 1987. A member of the public came forward with a sighting of a Holden Kingswood station wagon on the day of Sian's murder. Woman, Elizabeth Young, told a story about a strange encounter with a man who drove a white Holden Kingswood station wagon. Elizabeth and her friend Bill Wallace were swimming at Castaways Beach 11 km south of Noosa when they noticed an unshaven man walking along the beach. The woman noticed him as he appeared to be searching for something in the sand dunes. The man was unkempt and looked homeless. Elizabeth thought she had seen the man the day before and recognized him, so she waved at him. The man just glared back at her. Bill had previously had trouble with people breaking into his vehicle and was wary of the strange man. So he and Elizabeth got out of the water and went back to their vehicle to check. Their car was fine, but they did notice the man jump into a white Holden Kingswood station wagon and drive away. The couple had an uneasy feeling about the man on the beach and what he might have been doing, so Bill wrote down the car registration details. The registration was LLE 429. The vehicle was registered in Victoria to Valmae Faye Beck. Noosa police called the Victorian police to attend to the Murul Bark address where the vehicle was registered. Police knocked on the door at the Murul Bark address where the white Holden Kingswood was registered. The door was answered by an elderly man called Roland Watts. Roland told police that his son Barrie was married to Valmae Beck. Police had their suspects. Now they just needed to find them. Barrie Watts and Valmae Beck were wanted in Western Australia, but had skipped bail and absconded to Queensland. On speaking with Western Australian police about the couple, Noosa police requested photographs of the two. They express posted photographs of the pair to the Noosa CIB. They had driven north from their home in Ipswich to the sunny beaches of the Sunshine Coast, sure that young girls would be out enjoying the water and sunshine. Valmae Faye Forte was a 41-year-old twice-divorced mother of 6. She had an extensive criminal history with charges for theft, indecent behavior, obtaining money under false pretenses, forgery and vagrancy. She had served time in a Perth prison. Her husband, Barrie John Watts, was 10 years younger than Beck. Watts, 31, was a petty criminal working as a doorman at a Perth tavern when the couple met in 1983. Watts was part Aboriginal and covered in tattoos. He was an orphan who had a long criminal history. But not long after meeting, Watts was imprisoned for a break-and-enter charge and was put in jail for 2.5 years. It wasn't Watts' first time in trouble with police. He had previously been charged with armed robbery and theft. On Watts' release in July 1986, Valmae and Beck moved in together. They married in December 1986 and Valmae took Watts' birth name, Beck. The first few months of their marriage were relatively uneventful. Watts had promised Beck that he would remain on the straight and narrow, and would stay out of prison. But then, he started beating Beck. Watts demanded that Valmae dye her hair blonde, and insisted she wear a school uniform. During this time, Watts also resumed his former criminal activities, but instead of kicking him out of their home, Beck assists her husband by becoming the lookout. After killing Sian Kingi, Valmae Beck and Barrie Watts saw the huge media outrage on television and immediately went on the run. Valmae dyed her hair and the couple fled to Melbourne and sold the white Holden Kingswood. Police tracked the couple to the Lowood residence, but the couple was gone. Inside the home, they found discarded used hair dye and cut hair that indicated that the pair had changed their appearance. The case had gone cold, temporarily. The owner of the Lowood property contacted police the very next day when they received a money order from the couple with an address in New South Wales. Immediately, police swarmed the address, and the couple was arrested on the 14th of December 1987 and charged with Sian Kingi's murder. During questioning, Barrie Watt refused to speak or to even confirm his identity, but Valmae Beck was more forthcoming. Valmae Beck told police that her husband was unsatisfied with her. Barrie Watts was 10 years younger than his wife and had fantasies about raping a young virgin. The couple had gone looking for a girl who would fit his fantasy. They spotted Sian riding home and asked her to help them look for a lost white poodle with a pink bow. Sian was grabbed from behind and forced into the couple's car and was bound, gagged, and driven to a remote part of the Sunshine Coast. Sian was repeatedly sexually assaulted and was then strangled and stabbed. The couple was tried separately at the Noosa Magistrates Court. Valmae Beck pleaded guilty to the abduction and the rape, but not the murder. Barrie Watts pleaded not guilty to all charges. They were both found guilty and imprisoned with no chance of parole. In 1995, Barrie Watts was charged with the murder of Helen Mary Feeney. However, there was not enough evidence for a conviction. Barrie Watts is still in prison today and is serving his sentence at the Woolston Correctional Center. Valmae Beck died age 64. The couple is suspected of the murders of 3 other young women. Barrie Watts made the news again in 2021 when he applied for parole after 35 years in prison. This parole bid sent a new shockwave of outrage in the community. His parole was denied. Valmae Beck served part of her time in a Brisbane prison before being moved to Townsville Correctional Center after being continually targeted by other female inmates. In one prison incident, Beck was clubbed with a sock that contained a jam tin that gave Beck permanent nerve damage on the side of her head. In the later years, she found God and became highly religious. In 2008, Beck was transferred from prison to Townsville Hospital suffering from shortness of breath. She undertook heart surgery but didn't recover, and stayed in a coma-like state for 5 days before passing away. She was aged 64. In the years after Sian's murder, Valmae Beck changed her name to Faye.